Hello and welcome to Whatcast. My name is Roger Watson, and these podcasts are dedicated to readings of various articles that I've had published in newspapers and magazines. They reflect my views on politics, the pandemic and current affairs. Thank you very much for listening. We have been lied to about vaccine passports. This is my Unity News Network column of the 24th of May 2021. I'll come clean. I'm the owner of a vaccine passport. I took my 2 doses of the vaccine, and it was not for altruistic reasons to achieve herd immunity or due to fear I would die of COVID. I need to travel, and an important aspect of my income comes from international work. Had it not been for this, I would most likely not have taken the vaccine, as I think it's probably unnecessary. I find claims that it's helped to reduce the spread of COVID-19 are as difficult to accept as claims that lockdowns worked. Vast swathes of our older and vulnerable population have died during the pandemic, some of them the result of COVID-19 and some the result of neglect. But, as evidenced by the lower than the 5-year average age-adjusted mortality announced last week, it's likely that those who were going to die had already died. These are described as deaths brought forward. Frankly, we'll never know. On the other hand, I don't believe it's going to kill me, and the view from some who are at the far end of vaccine hesitancy, the so-called anti-vaxxers, I find biologically highly improbable. I have enough knowledge and information to know how both vaccines work. Neither of the vaccines available in the UK makes any changes to our DNA, and the amounts of reportedly toxic adjuvants are well below toxicity thresholds. 3 in 100,000 people are dying after taking the vaccines. Whether this is a result of taking the vaccines is another thing we will never know. Ultimately, we will all die after taking the vaccine. I'm not coming from the perspective of someone who is anti-vaccination, and one does not have to be an anti-vaxxer to be concerned about the potential abuse of vaccine passports. This is something about which the UK government has consistently and demonstrably lied. Michael Gove MP, a man whose purpose nobody can quite fathom, went on record at the end of last year, speaking on behalf of the government, to say clearly that there were no plans for vaccine passports in the UK. The same was unambiguously stated by Nadhim Zahawi MP, the Vaccines Minister, in January this year. If that were the case, why was the government discussing these from the outset of the pandemic, and why did Gove visit Israel to study their green passes, essentially vaccine passports? Reuters did fact-check a claim that the government had signed a contract for a vaccine passport in 2020 and said it was false. According to Reuters, the truth was the contract awarded to a company called Netcompany UK Limited is not for a vaccine passport, but for a certificate system for people who test negative for COVID-19, and Full Fact supported this view. Well, that's a relief. Whatever was signed, when and by whom, the undeniable fact is that we now have a fully functioning vaccine passport on our NHS app, and despite assurances to the contrary, it appears that plans are afoot to extend the use of vaccine passports from travel to large events. According to the Financial Times, one senior Whitehall figure said, "The first phase of the trials has gone very well, and it's almost certain that vaccine certification will be required for large events." The official added that passports for pubs and restaurants have been ruled out, but that another Whitehall figure said that although no final decision had been taken, our focus has been on big events and higher capacity venues. That doesn't fill me with confidence that we will not, before long, routinely be expected to prove our vaccination status for entry to smaller venues, such as pubs and restaurants. Of course, I reserve the right to be wrong, but I sense a sinister mission creep in every aspect of the introduction of vaccine passports. This was made clear by the Institute for Government as recently as March. A commentator on Wired said the conflation of evidence of immunity with proof of citizenship and the next step conclusion that national identity implies a national mandate to be vaccinated is making vaccine passports the latest missile in the culture wars. A medical commentator in the BMJ said there's enormous pressure by governments and public health authorities to consent to these vaccines. Our biggest concern regarding vaccine passports is the potential violation of people's freedom of choice. People are likely to be denied access to places or the opportunity to travel abroad unless they opt for the jab. If this is the case, then we really are facing the end of liberty as we know it. Even the conversation which has mostly been on message with COVID orthodoxy, published an article with some worrying information which indicates the likelihood both of extending the circumstances under which the vaccine passport may be needed. As the country resumes normal functions, this data will be useful for further aspects of unlocking as they arise, and more worrying, extending the types of information they may gather. The latest privacy policy also contains a long and confusing list of personal data under the personal data we collect and how it is used, some of which look worryingly sensitive, such as ethnicity, vehicle registration plate, national insurance number, employer, biometric and genetic information, and criminal convictions. China and its social credit system, it appears, is just around the corner. It seems we are all likely to lose from the introduction of the vaccine passport. All of us, that is, except whoever benefits from the budget of $21 million allocated by the Department of Health and Social Security to NHSX for the COVID-19 vaccination certification programme.
This podcast was produced in association with youthpublicationslimited.com.